Today on Hearts of Heroes, a pickup truck plunges into an icy canal with 2 people trapped inside.
Oh my! And I heard the splash, and then I started freaking out. What do we do? What do we do?
As the truck sinks, it is life or death in an instant, so the first responders have to act quickly.
We weren't looking at, having minutes to spare. We were working with seconds at that point.
And later, police officers rush in to get a couple out of a burning home.
So I just pulled up with the lights on and started banging on the front door.
Your house is on fire. Come on,
With no time to think, these heroes acted on their incredible instincts and saved lives because of it.
No matter how prepared we think we are, Mother Nature's in charge. I know, I respect her. But 2 friends from Stamford, Connecticut learned that lesson the hard way when their 4x4 veered off a snowy road and into an icy river.
First responders were quickly on scene, but it would take a coordinated effort by divers, EMTs, and engine operators to pull them from these near-freezing waters.
Stamford, Connecticut is located on the eastern seaboard, about 35 miles north of New York City. With a population of about 130,000, it offers a mixture of big city amenities with plenty of outdoor activities.
A lot of things to do outdoors, even though you're living downtown. Within a couple of miles, there's numerous outdoors things to do.
Ashley Lionetti also grew up in Stamford.
I was raised in a very motorsports-oriented family. Dirt bikes, quads, jet skis. I was literally snowmobiling in the womb.
But these outdoors can present some dangers as well. In the fall and winter, New England experiences what are known as nor'easters. This is a storm that most often forms along the East Coast, and it's got warm air over the Atlantic Ocean, relatively, that clashes with Arctic cold air from the north and west. So this nor'easter gets its name from the northeasterly winds that blow in from the northeast ahead of the storm.
It's a wicked winter storm associated with high snowfall rates, significant wind as well, and often very, very high tide.
In February of 2021, Stamford was hit with one of these treacherous nor'easters. Driving was not advised, but Ashley had a specially modified truck which was designed to handle this kind of weather. Feeling confident, she called her friend Dustin to snap some pictures for her social media at Cummings Beach, which is a popular destination located right near the coast.
It's a nice park. The problem is, during the storm, there was no way of clearly indicating where the road was. So even though I kind of knew the park a little, I still myself, it was very hard to tell where exactly the roads were.
Heavy snow can cause whiteout conditions, where snow-covered regions can make contours, shapes, and landmarks indistinguishable. Navigating this kind of event can be treacherous, even for the most experienced driver.
After taking some shots down by the marina, the 2 began making their way out of the park. But with almost whiteout conditions, they got disoriented.
We get lost, we get a little confused. We don't know where the roads are.
We headed down straight, and we literally just drove straight in over the seawall. Oh my! I can't!
No, back up.
Ashley and Dustin thought that they had hit a small pool of water, but in reality, they had plummeted into a 12-foot deep canal.
I heard the splash. And then I started freaking out. I was like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
The water then started filling in. It started right around our ankles and then kind of delayed for a minute. And then after, I'd say 30 seconds, the water started filling up pretty fastly from the ankles all the way up until the top of the truck.
Dustin and Ashley tried to escape, but to their dread, they discovered the anti-theft device had locked up all the doors and windows.
The first thing I'm thinking is, how do we get out of here? Ashley's staying out loud. How do we get out? How do we get out? She had mentioned she had a manual back window. We turned around to the back, saw the manual window, went back, got it open. We said, hey, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get out of here.
But it wouldn't be that simple. Ashley had managed to squeeze her petite frame through the 8x12-inch window, while Dustin had a sinking realization.
And then after she got through, the water at that point was maybe chest high. And I took one look at that window and I realized there's no way I'm getting through that.
Coming up, in order to save Ashley and Dustin, firefighters would have to attempt a rescue unlike any they had ever done before.
And then from there was some really crucial decisions done in a split second.
And later, police jump into action to save people in a burning home.
Then I saw Officer Myers turn around and start running, and then we saw the flames.
But first, a safety tip.
Winter weather can pose an incredible number of risks, so try not to get yourself caught off guard.
We recommend keeping a bundle of cold weather gear in your vehicle just to be safe, such as extra food, water, warm clothing, a flashlight, and an ice scraper.
And try to keep your car fueled up or charged in the mere chance your plans go sideways and you find yourself stuck.
In February 2021, Ashley Lionetti and Dustin Schrader were taking a drive in Ashley's pickup truck. Suddenly, they plunged into a swift-moving, icy canal. Ashley managed to escape through the back window, but Dustin was still trapped inside.
Fire dispatch, engine 5, rescue 1, respond in addition, Cummings Park Marina for a vehicle into the water.
Luckily, somebody had seen the accident and they called for help. Firefighter Frank Dasima was the first one on the scene.
I just wanted to get that initial report out to the chief and to those crews so they'd have a little bit more of a plan before they got there.
These first responders know that every second counts in an emergency, so they are trained to work in unison to make sure everyone has all the information they need to pull off a rescue.
After assessing the situation, Frank began plowing a path for the rescue engines so that they could get through. Moments later, Captain David Harriott and Deputy Chief Matt Palmer arrived.
And then from there was some really crucial decisions from that done in a split second.
That cold water is just filling the cab of that truck very, very quickly. We weren't looking at, having minutes to spare. We were working with seconds at that point. I was able to get 3 firefighters with cold water suits into the water within seconds after my arrival.
So we ran in about 10 feet, and then we had to swim the rest of the way, which is probably another 30, 40 feet.
We went up to him, made contact. She let us know that her friend was stuck in there. Then we ended up noticing him in there. He couldn't get out.
And I was just yelling to him, you got to do something to break this window. At that point, I already knew there was no way I was getting out without some type of tool to get one of the windows broke.
While rescue swimmers Rosero and Calandro tried to figure out how to pull Dustin from the sinking truck, firefighters on shore were facing another challenge. How were they going to get Dustin and Ashley from the freezing river to the shore?
I started to think, how could we use the tower ladder? And I had when the mechanical supervisor arrived on scene, that was like the first thing I asked him was, do you think we can use truck 1's boom to do this rescue?
The Stamford Fire Department had never attempted this kind of rescue before, but they had no choice. Ashley's pickup was rapidly filling with water, and Dustin was still trapped inside.
These brave first responders are required to make critical decisions to save people's lives. And often, they are faced with rescue situations they have not even attempted before.
With no time to lose, they moved the rescue truck to the water's edge and extended the basket over the canal. Once the tower was close enough, they pulled Ashley from her truck into the basket.
901, I'm on attack, go ahead.
And then after we got her off of the bed into the bucket, that's when the truck started sinking.
Ashley's truck was about to go under with Dustin inside. They had to find a way to break out that back window.
When the truck came over with the basket, one of the firefighters handed me a Halligan tool. So I started swinging the tool a few times. When I finally got it through, it wasn't like the window just shattered. I just felt the tool kind of go through. And then at that point, the truck started sinking faster.
The pickup was now completely underwater, taking Dustin down with it.
Firefighter did get over to me right before it went under, so I was able to grab a hold of one of his hands, just kind of him to help hold me there.
I was keeping contact. The other 2 firemen were still trying to do what they can by smashing windows with tools.
Last thing I remember is taking the last breath, holding his hand, and then, just holding on to the air as long as I could without trying to move around to exert oxygen.
Everyone watched in horror as Dustin stayed underwater for almost 45 seconds.
One guy held on to Dustin the entire time, held on to his hand, and I'm just watching in shock.
And for any of us who have a substantial amount of time on the job, I just thought I watched somebody lose their life.
Miraculously, the window gave way at the last second, and Dustin was pulled to the surface.
Next thing I know, I'm above water, and I'm just gasping for air, and I started breathing again.
First responders were just as stunned as Dustin.
I was like, oh man, I can't believe that just happened. I couldn't believe it. Like the victim's reaction, his eyes were open, but he couldn't believe that he came out either.
Dustin and Ashley were rushed to the hospital and treated for hypothermia. Today, they are fully recovered and hold immense gratitude for all the first responders who came to the rescue that day.
Every single person that day is a hero in my book. Everyone went above and beyond.
It's one of those jobs where you don't get praised every day. You know, you're saving people for whatever reason it may be, and you just go about and do it every single day.
Coming up, 2 police officers make a daring fire rescue.
And then we saw the flames, and so I got my unit and I turned on the lights and sirens.
Facing any kind of disaster can be scary, and even when there is warning, most people just think, hey, it's not gonna happen to me. But sometimes when the event hits, you can't even be fully aware of the danger until it's too late.
That's what happened to one Texas couple when fire broke out in their home while they were sleeping in bed. Fortunately, 2 quick-thinking officers were there on the scene to come to the rescue.
Just outside of Fort Worth sits the small city of Lake Worth, Texas. With a population of just under 5,000, it's a quiet little community where people go to the park, stroll the quaint downtown, or go boating on the Lake Worth Reservoir. And it was that kind of life that really attracted Hector Rojo and Susana Montes to Lake Worth.
Y de veras es muy tranquilo el Lake Worth, me encanta. Del otro lado,
Esta área está bonita.
Hector and Susana knew that it was a perfect place to raise their young son.
A Lake Worth, yo siempre lo he considerado una ciudad segura, porque he mirado policías, he mirado como emergencias que se le llama y ahí están ellos.
Donde quiera que vayas, siempre vas a encontrar a un policía. Siempre los vas a ver que está ayudando a alguien más. Es que...
And the Lake Worth police officers take pride in serving their community.
I used to think that I wasn't a people person, but I really do I just love helping people.
What got me into police work was just kind of learning more about what police work was, running to the people in need, the ones that can't help themselves, and helping them through their issues.
Whether they are police or firefighters, first responders share a common bond. They all have a strong sense of duty and service to the communities they protect.
That sense of service would be called into action one cold November day in 2020. Officers Myers and Valdez were patrolling the streets.
Generally through our neighborhoods are quiet. We don't have a whole lot that goes on within the city as far as the people that live here.
It was a quiet evening for Hector and Susana, too. After spending the day at the park, they, along with their son and Susana's sister, all went to bed.
Era un día normal que empezó a hacer frío y como a las 9 o 10 de la noche, fuimos a acostarnos.
At around 1 a.m., officers Myers and Valdez took one last drive around the neighborhood before finishing their shift.
My partner, Officer Valdez, she was in training, so we were just kind of going over the streets, letting her get familiar with how the area is, how the town is.
As they cruised past Hector and Susana's home, nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
We just driven by the house literally maybe a minute earlier. No flames, like we couldn't even see the smoke by then.
As the 2 officers drove down the block, they then saw someone out walking and pulled over to see if he needed anything.
We got out to talk to the gentleman, and as soon as we got out of the car, like we could smell the smoke, but we couldn't see it.
As I look up in the sky, was kind of following the smoke, the direction where it was coming from, and just seeing at the peak of the house that it was on fire, just not even a block away from us.
Then I saw Officer Myers turn around and start running, and then we saw the flames, and so I got my unit and I turned on the lights and sirens and went over there to meet them.
Coming up, officers run directly into the path of danger.
First thing I'm thinking is we've got to get these people out of the house immediately.
Your house is on fire.
But first, this tip to keep you safe.
First responders are great at what they do, not just because of instincts, but because of education and rigorous training routines.
So like us, have a safety plan at home for things like what to do when you hear a smoke alarm, and practice routinely with your children how to get to safety.
The more you practice, the better chances you'll have of a positive outcome.
In the early morning hours of November 30th, 2020, officers Christian Myers and Antonia Valdez were patrolling a neighborhood in Lake Worth, Texas. To their shock, they saw a house on fire. With no firefighter training, the two rushed over to the burning home.
I took off running to the house. I called over the radio, hey, we have a fire at this address. That way dispatch could notify the fire department. That way we could get them immediately.
But there was no time to wait for the fire department to arrive.
I know that I'd seen like 3 cars in the driveway, so there had to be someone home. We didn't know how many.
So the first thing I'm thinking is there's got to be people inside. We don't know for sure, but 12:30 in the middle of the night, they're asleep in here. So as far as my safety, that's the last thing that's going through your mind. You're like, we've got to get these people out of the house immediately.
Officer Myers got a head start, and he had already started banging on the front door. He couldn't get an answer. He just started running around the side of the house to the back of the house. So I kind of just pulled up with the lights on and started banging on the front door again.
Susana Montez woke up to the loud commotion, but didn't realize that the officers were actually calling out to them.
Y tocaron, cuando despierto, miro muchas luces. Las patrullas con las luces altas. So yo dije, ya chocaron.
Susana woke her husband Hector, and they rushed down to the front door.
Your house is on fire. Come on, your house is in here.
The wife and the husband actually came to the door at the same time, and immediately I was like, hey, your house is on fire, you gotta get out.
Like they're dead asleep. They're still like trying to wake up. There's no flames or heavy smoke inside the house, so I'm sure everyone's like, well, where's the fire? You know, we're walking through our house. There's no fire, but you know, it's above us in the attic the whole time.
Come on, quick.
After a moment, Susana and Hector realized the danger that they were really in.
Mom's reaction was, but the baby, you know, like, because they had a small child, and I'm like, well, get the baby, and we gotta go.
Come on, quick.
Regresé por mi hijo y me salí. Es lo primero que hice.
Is there anybody else?
And so then we started asking, like, hey, anyone else in the house? And that's when the other lady came out from one of the other bedrooms.
Officers Valdez and Myers got the 4 people out of the house into a safe location away from the fire.
5:25, we got everybody outside of the rest of this.
And then we just checked the rest of the house, make sure that there was no one else in there, and then we started getting, their vehicles and stuff out of the way for them.
Back your car up, back your car up.
And then as they were sitting out in their car, kind of just watching this take place, their house on fire, the fire department trying to put it out, they started coming to realize, like, oh, our house was on fire above us. But anytime there's a house fire, we're always going to respond. You just take it amongst yourself to either go run in the house and try to save lives or wait for the fire department to get there. It's just instinct and your reaction.
The fire caused extensive damage to their home. But Hector and Susana are rebuilding, and they're looking forward to moving back in. They do know how fortunate they were to have the 2 officers so close that night.
Porque si ellos no hubieran tocado, hubiera sido más espantoso, porque se hubiera caído el techo.
After surviving the harrowing event, Susana and Hector think of Myers and Valdez as more than just police officers.
Se lo agradezco mucho de corazón, y a ellos dos les he dicho que son mis ángeles. Son mis ángeles.
I'm glad that we were able to be there at the right time, and that they're well, and that they're moving on.
My favorite part of this job is being able to show up with people that are in a situation that is not ideal, that they don't know how to overcome. I love showing up and being able to help. That's why I'm in this profession.
Whether it's fires, floods, or blizzards, disasters really do show up in so many different forms.
Thankfully, we have many different types of heroes who also show up when we need them the most. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on another episode of Hearts of Heroes.